Transformation is a great word. We have folks and they're coming with, I think we can call it baggage. Sure. They have some major pain, sources of shame or hurt that have come from previous religious experiences, or sometimes a lack of a religious experience. We have a lot of unchurched folks who have never been given the opportunity to have a spiritual life.
Howdy everyone, Reverend TJ, your Minister of Community Care and Engagement. Welcome to Tiny Pulpit Talks. We are so glad you're with us. Send us your questions, leave us comments, do the likes, do the dislikes, do whatever it is you want to do. No, don't dislike us. And you can review us, as always, on your favorite podcast provider. We are so glad you're with us because we have our very special guest with us, Brennan Greef. Hi, Brennan.
Hello, TJ. Hello, friends.
Yay. Brennan, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am Brennan Greef.
Yes.
My title is Director of Adult Ministries and Leadership Development is my full title.
Wonderful.
And I do a lot of things.
You do.
I do. I work with a lot of people in this church, pretty much starting with 10th graders when they're 15, all the way up through our oldest adults and everyone in between.
And when you say work with them, what does a week look like for Brennan here?
It is all over the place. I'm doing, I'm running around, I'm supporting a lot, supporting our wonderful volunteer facilitators. Sometimes I am teaching, creating curriculum, pulling from other resources, helping support teachers, training them, listening to ideas for new classes, tweaking old classes that are longtime favorites, working with youth. That is a whole other realm that we could probably talk about for 30 minutes, what goes on in the youth room. But a lot of teacher education adjacent things, and also just supporting people where they are in their learning journey too.
Yeah. How long have you been at the church?
Well, I have been at the church for almost a decade, but I've been on staff here for about 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, so 4 years. So you came on staff during
a magical, beautiful time in the history of the world called COVID. My first day was January 1st, 2021.
Oh, it was your fault.
It was, sorry.
Sorry.
So I didn't see a single person here in person for 8 months. My job was all online. I met all of the wonderful people here via Zoom.
Okay.
I interviewed for my job via Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what changed for you when you got on campus?
I got to see real humans and hug people and meet all these awesome folks who make our church run. It was actually, in some ways, a great way to start a job because I got to sort of start slowly, meet some of our main people who are wonderful educators and presences, is that a word, in this place, and then meet them in real life and hug them and hold their hands and be with them together.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool in a way.
That's great. One of the things I've seen at some UU churches is that there's sort of like the people that like the worship side and then the people that I'm here for the classes, I'm here for this learning. Can you say some about how the learning and worship or the elements here at this church are kind of interact and work together?
Yeah. So I've been a member of other UU fellowships that are a little smaller, a little bit different flavor than here, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I am happy to say that we may have a little tiny bit of that here, but we have a very connected campus in a lot of ways. We have a beautiful sanctuary where incredible things are happening here in worship in a liturgical kind of way, and on the other side of campus we have the beautiful Hallman building and some classrooms. And I would say most folks who I see in classrooms, I also see them in the sanctuary. Sometimes we have a plan for a class, but folks come out of 9:30 worship and they're like, oh my gosh, this homily was incredible, and we may derail class a little bit and engage with that. And I think what happens in our adult classrooms really supports what's coming out of the pulpit and vice versa. We actually, folks may not know behind the scenes, we work to align a lot of that. So what you hear coming out of the pulpit is what you are learning about in a classroom at the same time. So there's some explicit, intentional things that happen that tie things together, and sometimes it's just spontaneous and what's happening in the lifeblood of the church on a given morning.
Yeah. I used to talk about faith development because in seminary that's sort of what they talk about. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the language they use that incorporates education but also sort of growth as a spiritual being. What is your when I had someone visiting the church the other day, and they were like, what's adult education? And this is a church person. So in his tradition, that wasn't a thing. So can you translate for us, or maybe people who are new, like, where do you see education, faith development, and those things all working together?
The way I like to describe what we do in adult faith development or adult RE, religious education, I like to think of it big picture as spiritual grounding.
Okay.
And I think, and spiritual deepening. And I think that means a lot of different things for different people. And sometimes that looks like explicit classes and they really like that formality. Maybe they grew up loving Sunday school. And that's how they want to engage that. And then you have folks who really have a reaction against that and maybe don't love that at all. And so what their spiritual grounding and deepening looks like is really different. And we are lucky enough that we have space for all of those. If you come up onto the third floor, we've got 5 classrooms and you will see really different things happening in all of those classrooms. And a lot of it doesn't even happen in a classroom. We have all different kinds of ways. But I would say grounding and deepening are the words that best describe what happens in our adult RE.
You say that because, and I've heard stories of being in classes where people, or in settings where you describe almost spiritual breakthroughs or sadnesses that are found, or some kind of understanding or unlearning or relearning. Can you say some about those experiences that you have?
Yeah, I think transformation is a great word. Sometimes we have folks and they're coming with, I think we can call it baggage. Sure. They have some major pain, sources of shame or hurt that have come from previous religious experiences, or sometimes a lack of a religious experience.
Sure.
We have a lot of unchurched folks who have never been given the opportunity to have a spiritual life. And those show up in different ways, but there's some real sadness around it. And so we try to take those feelings and transform them into something we're kind of reclaiming. This is what is important to me, and this is what moves me deeply. This is what is important to me. And this is how I express myself, or would like to, aspire to express myself spiritually through that. And so we do a lot of work around that. And that looks a lot of different ways. Explicit instruction helps, but sometimes you need some quiet, solitude, meditative type experiences. So yeah, we try to transform some of that hurt because it shows up, man. It really does. And this is a beautiful healing space for a lot of folks.
Yeah. You do a beautiful job holding that space for people, I think. I know a lot of the work people don't always realize that's going on isn't just getting the schedules together and getting this, it's the afterwards talking to people. What came up for you? What happened? You do a lot of that too, right?
Yeah, Jean Ann Powers is our wonderful director of pastoral care, and she's actually a big reason of why I came on staff. I don't know if everybody knows that, but yeah, I think all of us have a piece of pastoral care in what we do, but there is so much that comes up in classwork, and you think, oh, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to learn a little bit about UU history. This is going to be no big deal. I'm going to take some notes and read a book, and then you're crying and you don't know what just happened, and it hits something from a different chapter of your life, and you need to be held. And that is something that beautiful connections are made between people who experience something similar. We have a lot of folks, you and I, who both come from Roman Catholic backgrounds. We have people who come from evangelical, like I said earlier, unchurched backgrounds. And so finding another person who's going through that and having a staff member like me or another congregant walk alongside you and hold you through that is one of the most beautiful and transformative things that I see happen, fortunately, almost every week in our classroom space. So I feel very fortunate to witness that and to help carry and to bear some of that.
And what you just said, when it really rings for me, even when the word classroom still carries something for me, not from the faith side, but from the quote school side, or now you have to be good, now you have to behave. Now the way my neurology works, that's different than my neighbor who can sit there quietly differs, and the challenges I had growing up, or whoever did, that the word classroom can be hard, but I sometimes think some of the transformative experiences people are having is finally learning in a way that is more conscious and in an environment that's more aware of their needs. That's what I see you doing a lot of. You're always aware of the way people need to feel good learning and how to conduct themselves in that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think meeting people where they are is the key to almost everything that happens in any kind of a space, but particularly a vulnerable spiritual space. And I am a former educator. I taught high school for a long time, and I care very deeply about how people have maybe been hurt in the past and just really trying to meet folks where they are. And sometimes they're not ready. We're ready to meet them where they are, and they poke a toe in that classroom and go, nope, not ready yet. And then they come back a year later or 2 years later, and then they never miss another class. So it's really interesting to see how we meet folks where they are, and they're meeting us where they are too. And just not going, oh, well, he bailed out of a class 2 years ago, so we're not going to let him sign up again.
What do we do when someone says, I'm just not ready for this? What do we do?
Yeah. Way to, express your boundaries and way to self-awareness. What a gift,
I know. Now, one of the things I know, some people sometimes they take these classes or they take these experiences and they get excited about something, they want to teach it to other people, or they want to do this. How do people get involved, not just in taking the classes, which many people can find on Realm and in other ways, but what if someone wants to facilitate something, if they have something that's interesting to them? How do they start that process?
Well, they can come find me and talk to me, please. But yes, we have a lot of lay-led classes that come from talented, wonderful, passionate people here in the church who have a skill set and some passion to do it. But it's not just a free-for-all. We don't just open the doors and say, anybody come teach anything in the world. We have a process, and there is a form that you can find on our website, and you can submit a proposal to offer a class. But you can also come talk to us and bounce ideas off of me, Reverend Beth, and really share what is your passion and what could you bring to this community. We invite that, and there's a little bit of structure around it. But
the other thing is that coming to us and coming to you, if someone's like, I've got this idea, but I need help, we can also connect them. Maybe because I remember I was asked to teach something, and I said yes, and my partner showed up with the 3 classes completely planned, word for word, but they needed someone who was more comfortable presenting it. And so it was finding those skills that go together. Yeah,
absolutely. We have a very large congregation. I think most people recognize there's folks who are really different than them, who bring a totally different skill set to the table. And that's one of our great joys as staffers, is we get to see that in a different way than maybe congregants do. And so we have, I can name 10 people off the top of my head that are really wonderful presenters and facilitators. And then 10 other people who are, kind of content people who are brilliant and get really scared in front of a group, and making those matches of these teams that really complement each other. And then through that, sometimes lifelong friendships are formed. I've got facilitator teams who they're like best friends in real life, and it all started because we kind of randomly paired them together to teach a class, and that's a beautiful thing to witness too.
It really is. I am kicking off Sacred with the team I've taught now with for a year. So we've done two years. Yeah. And it's a perfect example of all of us having different skill sets and bringing to it different things, and the clarity with which some people see some things and others. It's a wonderful environment. I can really speak to that.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. The whole being greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, there is some real talent and incredible things you may not learn about someone when you're sitting in the pew next to them during worship that you will get to see if sitting in a class with them, learning from them in a class. Or
the question is do I want to come here and have a fun experience and feel good? Yes. When I want to deepen and find my ride or dies, who I'm gonna travel across the country with and go do something, teach a class with them and you might find that person.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say. Or, go to Boston with 25 people.
With Brennan and Reverend TJ,
Stay tuned next year. But Brennan, it is a delight to work with you. You're such a wonderful presence here in this community, and we're so glad that you're here.
Likewise, TJ. It's the pleasure of my life. I'm so glad I ended up on staff here. Being a congregant was great, but being a staffer is really a gift.
It really is. So thanks everyone for coming again to Tiny Pulpit Talks. We're so glad that you joined us again. Feel free to comment. We want to hear from you. Ask questions, anything like that. We'll send them back Brennan's way. Maybe she'll reach out to you. Review us in your podcast provider. Do all the things. Let us know that you're watching. But most of all, just be part of us. We're so glad you're with us. We love our congregants.
Absolutely. Amen.
Amen. And we'll see you on Sunday. Thanks for joining us. Bye.